Hello, I'm Hannah. Welcome to my new channel, Hannah's Books. In honor of this year's celebration of Shaketube, I want to tell you a little about how I came to fall in love with Shakespeare. I came very late to him, but 2 years ago I officially became a completist. That is, I have now seen all of Shakespeare's plays performed on stage. But as I said, I got a late start. Yes, I read Romeo and Juliet when I was about 12 years old, and it didn't go especially well. I couldn't stop giggling as I read the ending. It seemed like a farce. One person pretends to kill herself by taking a poison that only makes her appear dead. The other person doesn't know it's pretend and is so distraught that he kills himself. But right as he's dying, person one wakes up, sees him dead, grabs his sword so she can kill herself again. I kept waiting for Romeo to pop up again. Both the romance and the tragedy were clearly lost on me at that age. I read a couple of other plays in high school, and then saw a performance or two of Friends on stage when I was in college, but I somehow had it in my head that Shakespeare's plays were mostly overdone tragedies that were actually just kind of funny. Side note, now I know that old idea of mine is actually kind of true. Many of the funniest bits in Shakespeare actually appear in the tragedies, and many of the comedies have moments of great pathos and human understanding. Cut to about 15 years ago. My in-laws were coming to visit my young family, and we were looking for something special, but inexpensive, to do during the weekend. Somehow I stumbled across the Shakespeare Theater Company's Free-for-All, Washington, D.C.'s version of Shakespeare in the Park. Although the Free-for-All is now held indoors on their main stage, back then it was held in an amphitheater in D.C. We thought we'd picnic on the grounds before the show, then join the throngs of audience members to watch A Midsummer Night's Dream. Imagine my surprise when I watched the rude mechanicals put on their farcical interpretation of what is essentially the Romeo and Juliet story. Even the main plot of Midsummer mirrors some of Romeo and Juliet. A parent tries to put a barrier between his child and her love. Shakespeare was apparently fully aware that every story has multiple readings, and he was eager to explore both the tragic and comedic ways to tell this one. I was fascinated by the connections, and I wanted to learn more. Having never read any of Shakespeare's comedies before, and only knowing theoretically what a dramatic comedy was from a cursory review of definitions the night before I took the AP Lit exam in high school, I started reading more of them and more about them. I'm only partially facetious when I say I still see Romeo and Juliet as kind of a comedy. At the end of the comedies, we arrive at a wedding. At the end of Romeo and Juliet, we arrive at a funeral, which also acknowledges the coming together of two previously warring families. That is, we see the marriage of the Montagues and the Capulets. And, as the reduced Shakespeare Company claims, Shakespeare's tragedies are a lot funnier than the comedies. Incidentally, if you haven't seen their show, do it now. I'll link down below. Back to the Free-for-All performance. In the week or two before my husband's parents arrived for their visit, we decided to prepare our young son, then about 5 years old, to see the play. We were hoping that if he was familiar with the basic storyline of Midsummer Night's Dream, he might be willing to sit through at least the first half of the outdoor play. We first watched a great short video we found in our local library, the Animated Tales version. In the video, the story is laid out briefly and clearly, and the text of the video uses a lot of Shakespeare's actual words as well. My son was absolutely entranced, and I'm thrilled I could find the video on YouTube this morning. I'll link below. Next, we watched what my son still calls the bicycle version, the 1999 film with Stanley Tucci as Puck. He loved it, and was soon recruiting his friends on the playground to act out his own take on particular scenes from Midsummer. His young friends were a little baffled, but they played along. Show night finally arrived. We took our seats. I sat in an aisle seat so I could rush my son out if he became bored or fussy. He decided to sit on my lap, excited by the scenery and all the people around us. He wasn't bored, to say the least. Instead, when the actors came on stage, he started reciting Shakespeare lines aloud right along with them. This was not something I had prepared for. I tried to shush him gently, to no avail. Should I take him out? That seemed like a terrible option, but I was worried what our neighboring seatmates would think. Luckily, most of the people around us seemed to be retirees missing their own grandchildren. They were all in hysterics, laughing at our young Shakespearean with huge smiles on their faces. They reassured us that it was all just lovely. I'm still very grateful for their amusement and patience. The next year, a teen homeschooler in our area decided to put on a Shakespeare play for our town. He gathered together a couple of middle school kids to play the leads, and then recruited all the young homeschooling kindergartners, etc., to fill in the smaller parts. The young man cut Shakespeare's text to fit in about 30 minutes, and then directed his own little rude mechanicals in a wonderful production staged at the community center, which was very well attended. This young director continued to mount plays for about 5 years, I think, until he headed off to college. The young man is now a professional actor and was even an understudy in the recent Folger Library production of King John. Well, in this young man's homeschool production of As You Like It, my son played Jaques. He put a pillow under his shirt and an old pair of my eyeglass frames on his nose, and he recited the 7 Ages speech. And he's never looked back. Now a junior in college, he acts in and directs Shakespeare plays and other drama on campus. He's an English major and intends to write his senior thesis about Shakespeare. And right now, he's thinking he may become a dramaturg for his career. I'm thrilled to say that his love of Shakespeare has infected both me and his father. The two of us are not the experts our son now is, but we're both eager to continue attending plays, discussing those performances, as well as the original texts, and reading historical and analytical books about Shakespeare. Thanks for joining me. Next time, I'll tell you a little about the book I'm reading about female characters in Shakespeare's writing. See you soon.